what we have here is the
That's the website.
warheads to windmills.org/events page. And that
Right.
changes according to what's going on, but that's what it is right now. And this is 2 weeks of no money for nuclear weapons is this week. No money for fossil fuels is next week. And there are a number of things that can be done. Join live actions, contact the profiteers, urge divestment, and boycotting in your community are things that you can do on both subjects. And a lot of the companies that are being targeted, there are 7 companies each week. And some of the companies that are related to weapons and war are also related to fossil fuels. But you can see on these charts that the different organizations are targeted each day, and Warheads to Windmills has put up a wonderful way that you can write to them or contact them and tell them what you think. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to watch. Last night there was Bill Hartung was on a Veterans for Peace webinar, Profiteers of Armageddon, and Tim and Wallace from Warheads to Windmills was there, and they did an action right then. And so I'm going to play this right now. Are you ready?
Great. Yeah, I think it's a good intro as people come on. Thank you.
You want me to walk people through the contacting the companies, or are you going to do it?
Why don't you talk first about the about the week itself and how people plug into it?
Sure. We have 2 weeks of action going on, linking the climate movement and the nuclear disarmament movement. So there's about 50 events in person taking place around the country in this next 2 weeks. Some of them have already happened, and groups are targeting the companies that Bill's been talking about. Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, L3 Harris. Today was L3 Harris Day, so we've been out there, and tomorrow's General Dynamics Day. But these companies, we're trying to highlight their role, not just in making nuclear weapons, but in the pressure that they put on Congress and the White House to keep the gravy train rolling. So we're out there in person with banners and signs and weapons inspectors and all kinds of other stunts to try to get public attention. We're trying to get onto the media, and we're also trying to make messages to these companies and to the public about their activities. And so we have these virtual action hours every day, this week and next week, to send emails to the CEOs of these companies, to blast them on social media. We have a shame toolkit to give you ideas if you don't have any about what to say to these companies, where we're trying to stigmatize the work that involves nuclear weapons and change the framing of this conversation. And we're also building on boycott and divestment campaigns. There's a lot going on already, particularly through the students' movement on Gaza, that are targeting the same companies, many of the same companies, both in the fossil fuel and the nuclear weapons companies, to get their universities to divest or whatever, to get working on faith communities and towns to really take this more seriously and really pile on the pressure. As Bill said, these companies are powerful, but they're not all powerful. We have tools, and we've been successful in the past in many campaigns, from apartheid to Nestle's chocolate or whatever. We can do this. We can put pressure on these companies, and that's our goal over the next 2 weeks.
And welcome everyone. And this is so exciting because we have 2 speakers tonight. And Gloria is actually on a radio call, I believe. So she can't start off the evening as I thought she would about the $1 trillion silencer. But Tina's here. So I'm going to let Tina go ahead and do her presentation on Project 2025.
Oh, just a minute. Could I ask a question?
Of course you can, Ellen.
Yeah. I have a message in my machine, my computer, which is a desktop. This meeting is being transcribed for AI companion. What does that mean? It asks me to click OK.
I didn't.
May
Go
I-
ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, AI companion is a way to take notes, and if you're subscribed to, if you join the call, you will receive an email afterwards letting you know that if you would like to have those notes, you can go to a link and download them.
Okay, so that's something that you use. Okay.
Yeah, we started using that last month and we really like it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And it's a tool of Zoom, so it's
Right.
not something we have control over. It's just, it's a new Zoom tool.
And another form of surveillance.
That's
Yeah.
what I was wondering.
Well, you can if you object to it being on, I can turn it off.
Oh, I just clicked OK.
Right. If anyone else
hasn't
has an
asked me.
objection, let me know.
It
Yeah.
hasn't asked me. What's
It-
the name of it?
AI companion, and it should show up at the bottom of the Zoom screen. It looks like a little diamond with a star behind it to the right. Upper.
Not on an iPad. It doesn't. So,
Oh, okay. Well, go into your more.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, I will say thank you all for being here. Thank you, Diane, obviously, for organizing these calls. And I want to start by saying that this, and I'll say a little bit more about it in a minute, but this is a safe place for discussion. It is quite obvious that we will not be endorsing or making any decisions on this call. It's a safe discussion that will end with people being heard, either in the chat or if they want to say out loud. And I want to take a tiny bit of time for an exercise that we sometimes avoid, and I'll say more about it in a minute, but I hope you'll see why. I would like for a few of us, maybe three, to say something that is bringing you hope now. Not what you hope for, but something that is already happening, already good, and bringing hope to you. And because I want to give you 30 seconds to think about it, I'll start. I have a few things, but I want to say that all the good potential events that are coming out of the UN Summit for the Future is giving me a lot of hope, a lot of presentations that are led by marginalized communities with really great topics, and that is giving me hope. So I will ask maybe one or two people to raise your hand one way or another if you are willing and able to say something that is bringing, that is hopeful for you to not right now. Like, I see George. Thanks, George. Go ahead.
Hi. All right. So, some of y'all may have heard about this, but I didn't until last night. I have the honor of working with Move to Amend, and it's staffed by lots of young people I've known since they were interns. One woman was our intern starting at 17. She's 30 now. I can't believe it. I mean, I haven't gotten any older. She just got older. But one of the things they told us about was an action that happened Monday night in Atlanta. Y'all know Cop City. They've been in Cop City for a full year now. During that year, they were able to collect 116,000 signatures of people that wanted it blocked. And 116,000 is twice the number of people that elected the current mayor. Just overwhelming numbers. But of course, they were ignored. That's not what's hopeful. What was hopeful was that Monday night's action, and you can search ping pong balls in Atlanta, and it's hilarious. They released 116,000 ping pong balls and let the city council know that you have dropped the ball on Cop City. I think it's just amazing. Great.
Wow. Cool.
Right? Great civil disobedience. And it just made me smile.
Wonderful. I'm going to call on Jacqueline and then Ellen, and then the rest of you can put it in the chat. Okay. So anything that gives you hope,
Sure.
stick it in the chat. So
Well,
Jacqueline, yeah.
I started about almost 6 months ago writing letters, and then took up postcards on the election.
Yep.
So I've written over 1,400 by now, and I've gone to the different sites that I use, Vote Forward for letters, and Blue Wave postcards for postcards, and I see the number, how fast the numbers get pulled up by so many people wanting to do the work, and how many millions of letters they've been able to write, and how many millions of postcards. And I feel part of this huge group. Yes, exactly. And that's, and of course, then things have gotten better. It seemed so dismal at the time when we started, but now it looks better.
So the power of community building. That's lovely.
Yes.
All right, Ellen, you're up.
It's muted.
You're unmuting, right, Ellen?
The young people who are organizing without us, that they give me hope. The one group that I'd like to mention is Students for Nuclear Disarmament, which have been helped along by Back from the Brink, but they're their own entity. And I was really thrilled when my granddaughter was interested in going.
Oh, how powerful. Students for what?
Students for Nuclear Disarmament.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all. So there is something called red brain and green brain. And someone who was at our Congress in May or June talked about it. And it's kind of, just briefly, I'll just say that when we're in red brain, we're stressed, and that stress response makes it hard to think about problem solving. And when we are in green brain, we are not only recognizing and noticing these hopeful things, but we can act on them. And I'm going to, I didn't find the exact thing, but Shara Arman spoke about it at our Congress. I'm going to pop that into the chat, and I'm going to save the chat so I can read everybody's good, hopeful things later. And let you know that it's, if you'd like to learn more, Rick Hansen is a good resource. So I also want to be clear that what I'll call P 2025 is not just about this election. Part of it is already in place. Part of what the Supreme Court is doing is making it happen. And the Heritage Foundation has written this kind of plan every 4 years since I forgot when, and they're going to continue to push for it. They might have to change the name, but they're not going to get off this horse that they're on. So this is, this is bigger than this election. So I'm going to share screen and show you, let's see, I have to do some presentation mode. Yep, there we go. And next. So this is a discussion with the potential for some differing opinions. And if we were in the same room, maybe some sharp elbows. So let's get a few points out of the way. These are all thoughts or things that have been said about P 2025. Don't name it, it gives it power. The blue party is using it to scare voters when they are really the same as the red party. Only the privileged can think that we can't talk about it. It's so dangerous, we can't avoid talking about it. So obviously, you know, differing opinions there, lots of opinions, and this is a safe place for discussion and different opinions. And wherever you are is where you are. You might be all in for Harris and Waltz and writing those postcards. You might be voting for Trump or Vance. You might be voting a third party. You might be protesting by staying home. I have a feeling there's not a lot of us on the call today that would be doing that. Some of us are doing more than joking about moving to Canada. Some people will say, I live in a swing state. Is it a privilege to consider a third party? And after we look at the resources, if you would like to share some of where you are on that, that is going to be okay with me. So I will be sending you all a document that is going to be very simple because I'm not all that tech savvy. That is going to look like this. It's going to look like this with some lots of links because there's a lot of people writing a lot of good stuff about Project 2025. Some of them, the first little group, are nonpartisan or pretty close to it. Then there's some partisan resources. Again, you might have seen these. And then there's some videos and podcasts. And if you want to see the actual document, it's there too. So I'm not going to go through that great big document, but you will get it and we'll figure out where it can live. Some of you might not know. I was going to look that one up and I might by the time we live. We also have a Google Doc that lives on our website about just voting resources, like some cool graphics, some things that some branches have done, like Miss Democracy. So it might live there. Who knows? We'll see.
Are you emailing it to us?
Well, I think we'll have everyone's email in here. So yes, that's one option to email it to you. But I will start by, where we go. I will start by showing you some of the ones that I think are a little bit more interesting. And some of them are already pulled up on my computer. And there we go. This one is from a source that some of you will have heard about before. It's called the Center for American Progress. It's a, not a new organization, has been around for a while. And they have this kind of detailed kind of series of articles. So Project 2025, exposing the far right. Can you see that? Looks like you can see it. Yep. Okay, along with all my tabs. So Project 2025, and if you scroll down, these are the different topics. So one about, of course, we know that they want to replace civil servants. So being able to, what that would look like. Gut checks and balances. It's already a reality in many states. Repeal one of America's greatest conservation tools. No-cost vaccines. So if any of these topics, you or a friend would like to know more about it, because that's going to help you in conversations. I found that these, again, nonpartisan, this one's specific for parents. I thought that it was kind of a tool that might, I'll tell you what, is high on my list, just put it that way. They also, on that page, said if you can ask a question, because they've got so many people that are doing this research, if you have a question, you can send it to them. So, and then this one I thought was unique, and we started off the conversation talking about AI. So I will note that this is written by a tech guy who is who uses AI, AI tool. So, and says, tell us what you care about. So if I say, I care about civil rights, then my computer, where are you? Show me. Oh, then I have to click show me at the bottom. And then they've got the little line up there. So can you see that pretty much? Not that you can read it, but can you see how that worked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. We'll stop share. And then one of the things that I've heard about that Project 2025 has been doing, I don't know if they're still doing, but they're going out into the community on college campuses. You know, when there's a fair, you know, a cultural fair, job fair, whatever, they set up a tent and they, you know, passersby, they tell them about Project 2025 with our young folks. And so when I heard about that, I said, well, I want to do that too. I want to go to a park and set up a tent and tell people about Project 2025. And I belong to a group that's a community action network. And one of the members of this group is, whoops, this happened to me last time. It actually disappeared after I clicked on it. Sorry. I'll go dig it up. It is has a graphic designer, and then she was working with our Indivisible group to set up just a handy little thing, just yep, specifically for that. And so I said, well, I want one like that, but I want a little bit more about the military. So she changed it a little bit for me. And again, those of us on this call know that the two parties don't differ as much as we would like about the military. But anyway, how they had decided to set it up was just about economic well-being, then about healthcare, and then democracy and political institutions, telling you some of the things, the differences between the two parties. Again, I think this is voter education. I'm not necessarily, you know, advocating. And then I asked, well, can you change this little guns and military? And, you know, so they had it just on guns and we added a couple things. And, you know, the Harris agenda isn't talking too much about the military. They're wanting to, I think, not talk about it, but I haven't got a little bit of room here. So if you have some ideas about what else I can add here, and then on to reproductive rights, which we know there's a difference there, climate crisis, LGBT and children. And that right at the top, we have a few of these resources that I mentioned. One of them that I haven't mentioned yet is Stop Asian American and Pacific Islander Hate. They have some specific little resource about what Project 2025 would do for that population. And then some of us know the Poor People's Campaign, and Reverend Theo Harris co-wrote an article that is published on Tom Dispatch. So that one I think is interesting because it does start off talking about Project 2025 and then ends with, you know, mentioning how both parties are going to still throw money at the military. So, so let me just stop there. Give us a couple of minutes. Do you have, again, you're going to get this in an email. I'll try to, I know e-alerts are hard and fast, but we'll send it out some kind of way. In addition to you all get it in an email because Ellen's going to give those to me. But we'll also find another way where everybody can get it, even if you weren't on this call. But I'll pop my email in the chat just in case it doesn't get to you.
Tina,
And yeah, just any questions on that?
Tina,
Yes, Ellen.
This is Ellen Atkinson from Maryland. I want you to know that last night I went into Democracy Now! Are you familiar with that?
Of course, yes, yes,
Amy Goodman's Democracy Now!
yes, we all are, right?
And she did a special on 2025 and how someone was able to get copies of it. And it had to do with how they were training people to go out and become advocates for the far right agenda in 2025.
Yes, Ellen. Yes, exactly. So even though, you know, it's not implemented yet, what they've done is like the authors and other people, they're recruiting people and they make these little videos. So although they want to distance themselves, these videos are online. And I've seen a couple of them myself. So you can, you know, you can go and find them. And these are all folks that are pushing not only those particular items, but also how they're recruiting people. And then how they're going to train them, you know, to enact the policies. So of course, we know they want to get rid of current civil servants and hire their own. So these are the training videos for the people that they want to hire and telling them, you know, don't ever say these words. Don't ever, you know, so yes, it's powerful stuff. So I'm going to add that to the Google Doc that everybody's going to get. Thank you.
Yeah, and these people were all in the former president's, the elephant in the room, staff. And he keeps saying he has nothing to do with 2025 project. Yep. Okay, I know you don't want to be partisan, so I'll be quiet.
So I also have this one that just says a little bit, it's just like, again, it's just a voting resource. Why, this is not about Project 2025, but it's just a general voting. It's got the QR code for vote.org. And why do you want to vote? Because these and other freedoms are at stake: abortion rights, Supreme Court appointments, etc. So if you want that, I can send it too. So the previous one was too long to get it all written down. So share the links. Yes, of course. I'm going to be sharing everything. Yes. So Diana, Diane, can you give me a time check? How much do we think we have? 10 minutes or?
Sure. You can take 10 more minutes if you
want.
If you want to, sure.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to showing you this other slide that is because one of our peace groups here had just had a nice conversation. I think I'll say a little bit more about the red brain and green brain. I feel like what we've witnessed in the last, I don't know, 2 months is a significant part of one party switch from red brain to green brain. But those who are really involved with the rights of Palestinians, are really involved with supporting third-party candidates or with peace work, maybe haven't been able to appreciate all of the joy that is emanating, or, you know, or kind of feel both and, right? Feel excited for maybe the first female Black president, but, you know, potential, but also scared about things that aren't happening when we have this little window. And so having a chance to just say where we are, I found it useful. And I'm not saying I'm not going to give you all those resources. I told you I would, but I'm going to take some of the discussion time for the resources because you can look at them yourself. You don't need me to tell you what they are. But where are we on these ideas? Would you like to talk about it? Would you like to say, we heard from someone talk about, you know, how many postcards she's written. One of my branch members was telling me too that she and her retirement village got up and they wrote like 1,000 postcards on, you know, in a couple of hours. They got enough people just to write and write and write. So where, if you want to, again, no pressure, would you like to say a little bit where you are? George, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I always have an opinion about these kind of things. I discourage us from getting bummed. There's plenty to be bummed about. The world, you know, every, you know, republic or country that there is in the world is moving to the right. Look at the Brits, look at India, the Middle East, Africa, all moving to the right. That's, you know, I don't want to encourage you not to pay attention, but I also do want to encourage you to generate a different vision, to actively generate and infuse with energy that vision that you believe in. I think there's power in that. I don't know if it's enough to get us through the next months, but we'll see. The Poor People's Campaign, I'm active with them, and the math works. If we engage infrequent and low wealth communities, infrequent voters and low wealth communities, there is potential out the wazoo in terms of, you know, swinging votes. So there you go. You could do that if you believe in that. And also when you're talking with your friends, your family, your, you know, your church members, your singing group, the Raging Grannies, talk to them and hear what their vision of where we need to be is. Share it with each other, build on those things, and don't begin or end your day with thoughts of misery and despair. And, you know, those are words of encouragement coming from, yes, one of the low wealth people in the planet, but we're doing fine.
Exactly, George. That's exactly the green brain. How we say in green brain is to turn around and look at the people doing the work that we want to see done and building on it. Thank you for bringing that in. Is it Mario, or would you like to go next? There we go.
Yes, thank you. Well, speaking as another low-income person, I just did a Pew Research thing online today to see whether I was what class level I was, and yes, I'm in the low class. But anyway, you know, coming to your question, you know, your list of questions there, I'm the third party voter because to me, and reflecting what George just said about you know, everyone moving to the right. I don't think they're moving. I don't see it so much as a movement to the right as a rejection of the bleak offerings of both Democrats and Republicans. Going back to 2016, when Bernie Sanders was a candidate, to me, that was actually both candidates, both Sanders, I say Sanders because he was the leading candidate until he was sabotaged by the Democratic Party. But both candidates, both Sanders and Trump, were against the system. They were alternatives. It was like an outsider election. If they had put Sanders up, I don't doubt he would have defeated Trump, because they were both against what people call the deep state now, the mechanism that has taken control of our government, which makes us really undemocratic. So again, I think you know, whether we vote Democrat or Republican, we're voting against ourselves, and we really need to, you know, we need to create our own third alternative political force that's independent of these parties. I always love to remind everyone, there's nothing in the US Constitution about political parties. They grew up like a weed and have taken over the garden. So
Thank
anyway,
you. Thank you.
quiet.
We're going to keep it short so other people can get a chance. I'm going to go to Jacqueline and then Lenny. Oh,
You're
Jacqueline,
muted.
you need to unmute.
Excuse
There we
me. Hi. I'm a strong supporter of Kamala. As a Californian, I've known her from her first. I mean, I didn't live in San Francisco, but from all her statewide things, and I'm not worried about her wanting to be pro-military because she's running for an office. She has to get in there. She has to be enough with what the country is doing. It's like some of my letters. My issue, I know that we have to take care of climate now. We have no choice. 2028 is too late, and that we'd better do everything we can. Well, but some of the states I'm writing to have other kinds of issues that people are dealing with, and they're difficult. So when I'm writing to those people, I'm writing about the things that the Harris campaign is going to do when she gets in there. She'll be as progressive on all of the things that we have loved and wished for as she is allowed. We have to get, I thought this was my hour to find out about 2025. I mean, it hits, but I'm working on the election and I can't believe everybody else isn't too. We can't have Trump. We can't lose the House and the Senate.
I had hoped, let me just break in.
Mm-hmm.
I had really hoped that we wouldn't even mention a political figure, the name, because it was supposed to be Project 2025, learning about that. So I really don't want to get into figures and stuff like that. Okay. You made your point, Jacqueline. So I think,
but I'm not learning about 25. You're telling me I can go research all this stuff.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to know the basics of it because this is the time I'm working.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit of that too. All right, two more, Lenny and then Katie, and then I'll get back. I didn't want to turn it into a discourse, but I'll give it to you, Jack. I'll give you some highlights. All right, Lenny.
Yeah, I'm holding my nose and voting for the lesser of two evils, as I've done in every election, except the first one I was eligible to vote in. In 1968, I felt that I could not in good conscience vote for Humphrey because he was too involved with the Vietnam War, and I did not vote, and that was a big mistake. And so, yeah, I haven't made that mistake since. Sometimes you have to struggle on the ground that you're given, which is a two-party system here, and not on the ground that you would like to have. And this is what I feel I have to do. I am also from California. I have visited Kamala's district office many times. I understand that she as a person may have some positions that are progressive and that I agree with, but I don't think the system permits much individuality, especially in foreign policy. I think it's an evil system, and whoever ends up running it is going to, at least internationally, be evil. But yet, there's more evil and less evil. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. And I'll go back to Katie, and then I'll share a little bit.
Hi, I will try to be fairly unusually brief. So I'm new to WILPF. I think I'm in the younger demographic here. My feelings, I mean, if I go with my gut, I'm going with a third party. I'm having an increasingly harder time holding my nose and voting. And so from my perspective, I feel like I've been doing this my whole voting life. I'm definitely in the low income career, despite having very high qualifications. Today was my last day, the second day, or the second time in 2 years that my university position has been eliminated, and this latest one was like a half-time position. So, you know, my career, I mean, we've had one financial crisis after another. I definitely don't feel like any government is working for me. And, you know, this summer basically is the first time and I think most of us are hearing about Project 2025. And I guess in my mind, the question is like, from what I understand, this has been something that's been, brewing and been putting into action since the 80s, since Reagan. I mean, I remember being 4 years old and watching Reagan get inaugurated. That was one of my earliest memories. And so, I think we need to have a much more complex thanks. I see the chat. We need to have like a much more complex conversation about the politics. Like it's not just presidential, it's not just binary, right? And so I've been really strategizing for myself and asking the people around me at the local level, like what can we have a voter guide for the local level, right? And I think that, especially whatever happens at the federal level, like we really, really need to be strategizing for the local and the state to be the resistance. So I really have kind of a configuration, like a combination of like most, Dems and Green Party, depending on, the particular situation. So I'd really like to see that kind of work. Unfortunately, I really can't like fully advocate for Harris. I can't get completely, be gung-ho about that. And so, yeah, I mean, the other thing I think that I think that that campaign has an obligation to give us some hope. They have a responsibility to give us some hope. And the what I want to hear is like 4 years from now, are we not going to be facing the same lack of choices? Are we going to be in the same poor strategic position as we are before, as we have been? I remember Bernie Sanders, all of this. So I'm just very frustrated about that.
Thanks, Katie, and welcome to WILPF, and welcome to the call and this conversation. So I do apologize for those of you who are wanting a little bit more. I think partly because I've been a little bit steeped in it, so I kind of wanted to not get into the weeds, but here you go, in the weeds we go. So one thing that I'm hearing from my fellow peace activists and others is that I can't be a one issue voter when reproductive rights are on the line. I can't just vote for Gaza as if it was possible when reproductive rights are on the line. And so that is something that we do know, that the Harris agenda is going to support healthcare as a human right and women's healthcare, and will protect access to medications that are a part of that. We know that on the other side that there's some bouncing around, but who knows what will happen. In all these cases, what will happen will depend on who's in control of the House and who's in control of the Senate. But I want to mention a couple other things. In Project 2025, whoops, I said it, is the goal of defunding public education. So someone mentioned previous Republican administrations. It has been their goal to defund public education, along with all the protections that go along with Title IX and protected communities such as LGBT. That is in Project 2025. It is also in Project 2025 to roll back our steps, the steps that we've taken, the minimal steps that we've taken for climate change. We all know that we haven't taken enough steps, but the steps that we have taken, there is one party that does want to roll them back. And that is, as someone else mentioned on this call, it is paramount for us as peace activists. I would like to say, in addition to the LGBT rights that we talked about earlier, there's a definition, there's a goal to change the definition of what a family is to things that that many of us would not agree with. And that is part of Project 2025. Again, it is not just for this potential Republican administration, but is for any future administrations that would want to do this, which is not necessarily only a conservative. It goes beyond conservative. And then we get into economics and taxes, and the 2025 does include a tax plan that costs middle-class families $6,000 more and giving tax cuts to the wealthy, restricting the rights of workers to organize, which we know the little growth that we've seen in labor organizing in the last year and a half has been really helpful for workers' rights. And if you know anyone who has a disability that depends on Medicare, Project 2025 is really important. If you have nothing else to say to someone who depends on disability income or depends on Social Security, and they are not willing to look at what Project 2025 does, tell them that that's what it does. It will cut Social Security and Medicare and nutrition assistance programs. That is in the plan. And then voting rights. We know the voter suppression things that we've seen, and we know that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is on the table. Hopefully, if we the people rise up and push. So those are some of the things, including banning assault weapons and invalidating state gun laws. So sorry, the Heritage Foundation and their group that have made this P 2025 want to invalidate state gun laws. They want to take out red flag laws that allows abusers to have guns. And along with, I'll end with what they want to do for civil service workers. But in addition, they want to subject all military promotions to the White House review. So in addition to like just stifling any, again, not that I want a military to function any smoother than it already does, but making a military promotions partisan just seems really scary to me. And then I'll just end with the civil service part of what they want to do. Their goal is to take things like, well, Lawrence O'Donnell was talking yesterday. The person that was doing the interview for the after the assassination attempt was a Haitian immigrant that works for the Department of Homeland Security. The nitty-gritties, all those people up and down in that department and all other agencies would be would have to ask for their jobs, and their jobs will be replaced with people who have proven to the organizers of this plan that we're loyal to you. They want loyalists up and down in all of our agencies. And someone has in the cancer patient, so definitely want to decrease research and things like that. Again, I didn't want to be a blab, so I'm going to stop. And if you have one thing you want to throw out, you can throw it out. And I also see that Gloria is here. I don't want to leave it on a bad note. I do agree that on the high note that George was talking about, people are getting organized. You can find everybody, Red Wine and Blue, Democracy Now, Heather Cox Richardson. Everybody is talking about this. So you find your favorite and put their name in and say, do they have something to say? Including, could be that like you've got friends who watch Jon Stewart or, whatever. Look it up and say, put their name in and say Project 2025. See if they have something to say about it. And then oh, and a song. There's a song for Project 2025. I'll end with that if we can. But who wants to add?
I believe, Diane, if you're there, if not, to introduce Gloria.
Okay, well, we'll finish with this song. You want to do that, Tina, and then we'll have Gloria speak.
It's a little long. You want to do it at the end, or you want to do it now?
Well, how long is
Gloria first, then the song?
Yeah, let's do Gloria first.
Okay, good enough.
And make sure the song is not copyrighted.
Oh, that's true. I will put the link in, and I'll tell you about it
You can just stop the recording.
Right.
If there's a copyright, stop the recording and it won't matter.
I will do that. Thank you.
Okay, great. That's a very good reason to have it at the end. Okay, so I'm going to let Gloria talk about the trillion. Thank you, Tina.
Yes.
Thank you for all that. And I had not heard of the red and green brain before. So I guess Gloria is off her radio show and will now talk to us. So.
Yes, the Children of Steel Dunes Literary Evening just ended and I bounced right over here. So it's hard to switch gears, but I'll switch. Okay. This book is unique, and it's something that the book, I should give the title, and thank you once again, I'm Gloria MacMillan. Thank you for hosting me to speak about this wonderful book at the Jane Addams Branch. The book, it says what I've been feeling for decades, living in a town that is between the rock and the hard place, Davis Mountain Air Force Base and Rayfield. And the amount of power when you have two of your major employers that are uphold mainly the foundations of the town cannot be overestimated. And I understood from a daughter of a career military colonel that this is very calculated to have these bases and these and all very peppered, not concentrated in any one place, but peppered through all of our communities. And especially in the Southeast, but everywhere. So what Joan Roelofs has done such a good job is to show, and I have to admit, I read the book on not YouTube, on interlibrary loan, and I had to return it, but she goes through the various sectors of society, voluntary organizations, churches, women's groups, men's groups, Rotary, many things, PTA, and how every one of these in our towns has people who would describe themselves as retired or just happening to work or be on active duty or not active duty, but they bring their sensibilities with them and their priorities into all of these areas of our communities. So, for instance, if you're on a church group, they know that someone's asking me a question. I said it's Joan Roelofs, the $1 trillion silencer. Joan Roelof, Roelofs.
Yes.
Okay. S on the end. The $1 trillion silencers. There's a long subtitle, but that is the title. And I thought it had already been announced, so I apologize for not giving it. I thought up at the top of the meeting, they'd already said it. So Joan was in touch with me at one point. She's on ResearchGate and so am I, but that dried up. And I don't know, at her age, she's in her 80s, it might be personal issues or what, but the interest about presenting was there at one point, but not. So it doesn't matter. She's online. There are YouTube interviews with her. Just get the spelling right and put it in YouTube, and you can actually hear her give a much more coherent and lengthy discussion of what her book set out to do and did do, which is to show that we quite vastly underestimate the networking that runs counter to our ability to be heard. And it's not admitted. It's not, they don't wear a t-shirt that says, I'm going to bring my sensibility and shut you down in these various committees. Or for instance, PBS has community advisory boards. And on ours, we have a retired missile engineer. And upstairs is the headquarters of that company that he works for, right above PBS. So you know that has no influence on them, right? And that's just one example. But I haven't given up on that either. You know, I'm still trying to get on their board. But I think that it's all these different areas, and it's more than I can list. But I think you're getting the idea that they're in so many aspects of our civil society. If you remember, here's something to put into your framework. When our government was calling the Russians and Soviet Union the evil empire, and then out of that grew a human rights movement, and that was so that they could have a civil society that was not dictated by the military. Do you remember that period in the 1980s? I do. And that was so all these countries in Eastern Europe could have a civil society that was not a militarized society, not run by the state and the military. Well, the military in any society has this tendency to be human beings that have children, that have, they're in schools, you get on the PTA, and then you bring your sensibility with you or whatever. So they're in there, and they don't set this aside when they're saying what is the potential speaker who we could host or we can't, or people just automatically know Joe works for that company. I better not bring up anything that might be too critical of that company. It's very, I don't want to use the word insidious because that makes it sound planned. It's very unconscious, and you know where to self-censor. If you have half of the people on your social action committee in a religious congregation are, say, from the Air National Guard, well, you're not going to bring up much that is about the the overflights and is this all really necessary? You're not going to do it. And so this is where it is. And I don't have the outline, but the different chapters go into different parts of our quote so-called civil society that is supposed to be so separate from the military industrial complex, but how they're now honeycombed. And that makes it very difficult for us as people for peace to get external media to cover us. Because again, it's honeycombed, and there are ways that we all know about the media. But sometimes a media person will be willing to do it. It happened here in Tucson. We had toys, don't buy war toys. And we used to have an elderly man dress up as Santa Claus, and we would be outside Walmart. One of the young reporters from one of the TV stations came, and he was so excited. He went back to his studio and he brought the camera and had them sing for him. We had some satirical songs, and he got it all down. He said, "Oh, we're going to be on at 6." I doubted that. I noted his age. And then when it rolled around the 6 o'clock news, they had filled the slot that would have been us with people coming back from a deployment in Afghanistan. And the children waving at daddy coming home. And that was the slot we probably would have had. So he tried, but there's someone above him. That's his city desk editor. And that person, no, we're not going to put that on. So we have to be aware of it. And I think it's depressing to read because it really makes clear what we're up against, more than I've ever heard discussed. And it's important to start maybe at ground zero and know what you're up against, and then work from there. We can't delude ourselves that it's, we can work around it too easily. I think she gives some hints and ideas in the last chapter of what we can do. Sometimes even finding common ground. If they work on disasters, some of these military, you can find common ground that's good, that you help in disasters. And we also think it's good. And we have worked as volunteers helping in disasters. So part of feminist peacemaking is to find any common ground you can find. And that's about all I can say because it's been a while since I had the book out. Does that help anyone?
I think it's great. There was a hand up. I think Katie had her hand up, but then she took it down. I don't know if she still wants to ask a question, but I just wanted to.
I saw a question from Cheryl. It's showing on my screen. She wants to know, it's kind of important. What does the $1 trillion refer to? And I think it refers to some of that doesn't sound enough, but I think she means the whole money that the military can spend on keeping things the way they are, their budget compared to what our budgets are. I think that's what it refers to.
Yeah, definitely. It's $1 trillion. We spend $1 trillion on the military. Our country does in the U.S. budget. So more than the next eight countries combined on their military budgets.
She wants to know why silencer. That's what you put. Oh, I guess that isn't the same term in England, maybe. Silencer is what you put on a gun, and it makes it be silent. So it's a silencer, and that's where that term is used for anything that silences anything. But I think it originated from what you put on a gun to make it not noisy. And so it's silencing criticism of the military.
Right. Right. Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Gloria. That's right. Exactly right. Our country is silenced because everybody has a little money coming in from different projects and contracts, or they know someone.
One other, could I just interject? Yeah, she said, don't think that the ecology people are above all that, and that she goes through and names names of the what is it called? The Conservancy, Nature. They take money from DOD, a lot of them, and she names names. So
right.
It's terrible.
Okay. So yeah, we wanted to just this goal is to make people aware of this book and the fact that there is a $1 trillion silencer. It's the military budget. So anyway, thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Diane, may I suggest that everyone save their chat, because there's a lot of good links in here. And if anybody has anything that you want to be sure gets in there, either ask for it or put it in if you have it. So that, because this seems to be people are very involved, and you're doing a great job with this, Diane, I have to tell you.
Well, I know Mario has a link to a video, and I brought it up, and it's over an hour long. I was thinking he wanted to show it now. So anyway, yeah, but I think, as long as we're going to put an email out to our attendees with the references that Tina had, we could go ahead and add the chat to it too. So that we could send it out that way too, if people have any problems getting the chat. We can try to look into that. And George has her hand up.
It's real quick. The link that Mario shared, if the video starts at the end of that hour and 15-minute talk, at the portion where the person is making the point that's relevant for this conversation. I won't say more. I'll just say, when you click on it, it starts at an hour and something. You only have to listen to it for 9 minutes or so.
Okay, thank you.
Good to know.
Yeah, that is good to know. Okay, so now we're into the part, thank you, Gloria, for our guest speakers have spoken. Now we're into the part where we open it up to members. And so we typically start off with anyone on the board who wants to say something. And I see Darian is here. I don't know if she wants to say anything as our president.
Thank you. I will just remind folks that in October, we will be opening up. We're already open, but the deadlines are in October for nominations to our national board, as well as applications to be in the elections for national board. So now is a good time to be going over the people you know in WILPF. Who is someone who is committed, who has some basic skills that would be helpful to the board, who would be reliable in being able to attend board meetings and pay attention to the materials which are circulated, which are exciting things like budgets and reports on different committees. But we do need to administer our organization, and that's part of what the board does, setting policies and establishing a budget and deciding where should the money be spent on what kinds of undertakings. So this is very important. And of course, it's very important for all of us to be doing what we can to be active in the electoral process going forward at this time. WILPF is a nonpartisan organization. We're not telling you who to vote for, but it's very important that people vote all up and down the ballot, not neglecting the local offices, which have a tremendous influence on the quality of life of people in your community. So I hope people are doing whatever they can to get the vote out and to help voters understand local issues as well as national issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Darian. I see 2 hands raised. I think that Randy's first. I'll take Randy first and then Tina. How about that?
I agree with everything the last caller just said, And one of the things I'm afraid in order for us to get anything, we're going to have to work on the inside, because we need a campaign finance reform. That's really what we need.
Yes.
You've got to stop putting money into these campaigns. The billions and billions of dollars have gone into campaigns to defeat good candidates. We're seeing that all the time on the progressive side. You know, they got to stop spending money. It's ridiculous. That's all I have to say.
I agree. Too much money. We should have public financed elections. But anyway, okay, Tina.
Thank you. I am going to say that hopefully you checked out or will check out the link that has been put in a couple of times about the 3 different events that will be held on Saturday on International Day of Peace. Cheryl and others can, well, the one is the Middle East Committee, one is from our fundraising committee with Starhawk, and the third is happening at the United Nations. I'm not going to go into it. You can see it. But I do want to say that if you are a newer member, you might not know that we have special consultative status of the United Nations. And the United Nations is having a meeting that they've never had before. It's called the Summit of the Future. And it's next week in coordination with International Day of Peace. And if you want to check it out, I'll put the website, check out their like Pact for the Future. I'll put the website, the link for their the big meeting, and go there and look for Pact for the Future if you want to just see what's happening at the UN. That's it.
Great. Okay, Eileen.
Yeah, I'm wearing my hat as a interim membership development chair, and just want you to know that our field organizer, Shelby Young, is just beginning to start what we call an orientation, because she was so eager. And we're thinking to start her off with maybe helping the branches that seemed most interested in working on growing their branches first. And so, and some of you are on right now. It includes my branch in Boston. There's for Burlington, Vermont, Sacramento, San Diego, San Jose, Santa Cruz, and that wonderful high school group in Miami. And hopefully we are looking for ideas for how to bring more people from the Jane Addams group into maybe little clusters where you can get together, maybe not as a branch, but as a an hour's drive away, and have little, I don't know, Zoom clutches and share ideas. But anyway, looking for more ideas as to what to do with the large number of people that Diane Blay has been sending so much good information. Everything we get, they get.
And we would like to see them and hear more from them, because many of them are active, and they can offer us more ideas. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Okay, Jacqueline has her hand raised, so I'll take you. And I think Randy may have his hand up, but not meaning to speak because he just spoke, but I don't know. But Jacqueline, go ahead.
Okay, on that, Randy was talking about all the money that comes into campaigns, and remember, Citizens United. This is a place where we could get off of. I thought that book sounded like it was the red brain. What we need to think about are what are the things that we can do to make things better, to move things along, and anything we can do to get campaign finances handled better. And that's something that is different between the two major parties. So, I'm not supposed to, I can't believe I can't say what I want to say in a WILPF meeting. I'm very discouraged to see that there are people here who are not facing reality. If you are voting for a third party candidate in this election, you are taking a vote that could go for certainly the lesser of two evils, and you're putting it into the hands.
We all have opinions.
We all
have opinions. All opinions are our own. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's a big topic that, there's been lots of disagreements about. So, yeah. But anyway.
May I say something about that?
Sure, Ellen.
It's my understanding, and this has nothing to do with shutting people up, but in order to maintain our status, we cannot be political. It's just not allowed.
Right. I thought I had clarified that earlier, that I hope.
And it isn't that we don't want to hear your opinion, but it's just not the time or place. But maybe after, when we turn off the recording, then you can say whatever you darn well please.
Yeah, we're supposed to be nonpartisan here, so I'm trying to do that. Okay.
I'm talking about values. I didn't talk about it. I didn't mention a candidate, and I didn't mention a party. So, if you can't talk about values, then you're being part of that, what that book was talking about having things clamped down on you and not allow you to speak and not allow you to get out and say what needs to be said. This is the critical time. This is the election. There might not be another one.
Okay, some people definitely think that. Okay, so we had Darian speak from the board, and I don't know if anyone else wants to speak. George is on the board, and she's spoken a couple times. Anybody else from the board? I don't think so. So now I'm on to issue committee chairs, and Cheryl is disarm. So go ahead, Cheryl.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Disarm End Wars Committee. And on Sunday, I sent to the WILPF branches listserv, and I hope this information was forwarded to the branches. I know that Diane did send it on to the Jane Addams Branch list. So the point is, we are in the middle of a big campaign, which is about how much money is spent by our military, coupled with how much money the companies who make nuclear weapons are making as profit. Okay, it's called pressuring the profiteers. And we asked you this week to target 7 different nuclear weapons companies who are making enormous amounts of money by taking government money, which of course is your tax dollars, and turning it into making nuclear weapons and the missiles that deliver them. Okay, so that is this week, and I will remind you of a basic URL to go to if you can't find that message that came by email. Next week, we're actually going to target the fossil fuel companies. Companies like Exxon and Shell and Texaco, they are making enormous amounts of money too. And so we actually want you to go to your local gas station and complain if they're owned by one of those big fossil fuel companies. Try to persuade the customers not to go there. Difficult to do. We want you to go to local independent gas stations, and apparently Costco and Walmart are not so into the big profit. So here is somebody is showing us these two sets of companies that we should be targeting this week and next week. So getting the military to have less money from the government, so they can't do some of these things, of course, is the ultimate goal, is to reduce the military spending and get us away from a military-driven economy. So please always look at the emails I send you and try to take some of the actions. If you don't want to go stand outside Raytheon, you can write a letter to the CEO of Raytheon. His email address is in the website I will send you. And there's even a sample letter ready there for you to pick up and hopefully just modify a little bit. So he doesn't say to himself, oh, I've had 50 letters that all said the same thing. So just modify it a little bit. We're trying to target these CEOs and try to tell them that the public doesn't want them to do this anymore. Okay, but it's because they make a lot of profit for their shareholders, of course, is why they continue to do this. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Could I piggyback on Cheryl's statement? Yesterday, I was tabling at Park Street, downtown Boston, and there were postcards which we invited people to come and sign. They were to the CEOs, so you can save a little money on stamps. Thank you.
Right, you can have letter writing parties, for example.
Here you go.
Okay, George had her hand up, but I think she just took it down.
I did just take it down, but I can make my statement, even though it's late and I want to go to bed. I understand the passion of the sister who was talking about sharing her opinion and her passion. I have not voted for a person who's supposedly from the Progressive Party since 1972. I was 12 years old. I voted for George McGovern. I voted absentee ballot for my father. And since then, studying and majoring in political science at college, I learned many things. And one of them was that the Democratic Party takes Black people for granted. No one can really argue that. And so I've had many elections where I had to pick the lesser of two evils. Not a great thing. And I begged, I can't remember what election it was, but I was living in Baltimore, so I could focus it by that time but I begged, and I really, really begged my friends, if you don't give any money to elections, just stop. If we en masse, stopped giving them money or stop voting for the lesser of two evils, they will change. Change won't happen without something major happening. And we have the power to say, no, I'm not giving you $5 or $50 or $5,000. And you can't assume you have our votes just because we care about the planet, just because we care about democracy, just because our values are what you say they are, and then you betray us. You can, and yes, everyone has opinions. That's mine. I try not to oppress it over my friends, but I also am not going to take any delusions about voting. So bless us all, do the best you can, and we'll be all right, no matter what happens.
I sure hope so. Okay, so we had issue committee chairs, and now are there any branch leaders who want to speak about branch activities or anything? because this is kind of the order I go through every time. I take the board, issue committee chairs, and then branch leaders, and then I just open it up to everybody. Any questions, any comments, but they have to be, you know, we're going for nonpartisan here. We're still recording. So anybody have any questions? Ideally, it's about WILF. Something like you have a question or about how WILF is or something going on, but it can be anything. So I'm opening up the floor. And Katie, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is a newbie. I hope this isn't a stupid question, but what this group, like, could you explain a little bit this like subgroup?
What subgroup are you talking about? The Jane Addams Branch?
Yes, the Jane Addams Branch, yeah.
Okay, the Jane Addams Branch is a large branch. It's virtual. So we have virtual meetings every month. I've had them for years as a Jane Addams convener, but I decided to open it up to everyone, all WILF US. Well, you know, we could open up to WILF, but anyway, it's WILF US who I put out the e-alerts to, and recommend you come to learn about WILF and different issues. So so Cheryl spoke about this. Well, Ellen, she and I are the chairs of the Disarm issue committee. So, but she spoke for that. And so people are welcome to come and speak and just share or ask questions. So and Darian has her hand up. So Darian, and then Cheryl, go ahead.
Katie, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on what Diane said. Some of our WILPF members are in communities where there's a physical branch. And in those communities, the WILPF members are able to get together at their branch meetings. And honestly, our branch has had some members active at the meetings for at least a couple of decades. So this builds up a real sense of trust and awareness of what people's concerns are and their quirks and so forth. I think it's a wonderful way to be a political activist, to have such a resource in your community where you can talk about ideas, get feedback, and have long debates about, well, should I vote for this party candidate I don't get along with so well on their issues, or should I vote for the third party candidate I really like, or whatever. These are all very legitimate discussions. They're hard to have in a limited forum like this limited national call. The Jane Addams Branch is especially for people who either don't have a branch in their community, or perhaps for any number of reasons can't make it to the branch meetings or don't choose to make it to their branch meetings. This provides another home for them for not quite the same level of closeness, but at least you'll notice if you come to these monthly meetings regularly, many of the same people do show up and you'll get to know us. Thank you.
Okay, Cheryl has her hand raised. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Yes, I just wanted to make the same point. We have, if you go to the website, the WILPF National website, US, you will find a list of about 40 branches, okay? And those branches are geographically centered. So we have one here, Palo Alto Peninsula, on the peninsula south of San Francisco. There's also one in San Francisco. There's one in Santa Cruz. But many of you, I think there's like 450 of you or so, don't have a branch geographically close to you. So we decided a few years ago to start this thing we call the Jane Addams Branch, because Jane Addams was the founder, or one of the founders of WILPF in 1915. So Diane, thankfully, is like the coordinator of these people who are dispersed throughout the country, not close to a actual branch that is geographically centered. So, but some of us are, you know, but we come to these because Diane has opened it up to everybody, for which we are very grateful, Diane, for your work. But it's an opportunity for those of you not physically near a branch to come and talk to each other. Thank you.
Right. Dichi, you have your hand raised? I'm not sure I said your name correctly. So okay, there you are.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask if anybody is still working on and paying attention to Cop City in Georgia.
You betcha. Did you hear from George Friday earlier on this call?
I'm sorry I came in late.
Oh, George, are you still there? Can you just briefly summarize the amazing story you had? She had a good one.
Okay, go to YouTube, search Atlanta and ping pong balls. At Monday night's city council meeting, which marks a year of people fighting Cop City. And in that year, they collected 116,000 signatures to block it. They were ignored. They released 116,000 pinballs in the city council chambers chanting, "You dropped the ball." It was cool.
Oh, what kind? You mean ping pong balls?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. That might have made walking a little difficult.
I can't imagine bringing them all in. It's just an amazing story. I agree, George. It's truly something.
We should also mention the Atlanta branch.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an Atlanta branch.
Metro branch.
Pardon?
It's the Atlanta
Metro branch.
Yeah.
So they are dealing, I mean, they're pretty active in dealing with this there.
Well, I should get in touch with him then.
So anyway, and if you're in, I'm sure you could contact George Friday. She's program chair. So if you go to the website, you can just look up go to where the board is listed, and you can write to her if you want to know anything more, since she knows about this. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think Deecha's in San Francisco, aren't you, Deecha?
That's right, I am.
But if she wants to know more, I mean, you
can
can't
go.
get in touch. That's all I'm saying. Okay, are there any other questions, any other comments? Because it's almost 9:30. I think it's a good time to stop. And so I think we're in time for that. We can end with the music, the song that Tina Sitch promised us. Oh, except we have to stop recording. And after the recording, if someone wants to talk any more about anything, I'll stay on a little bit longer. Okay. So Tina, do you want to, is it a video?
Thank you all. I'll stay for some of the music though.
Yep.
Remember to share audio.
Share sound is clicked, optimize for video.
And turn off the recording.
Yep, the recordings